How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, well, it doesn't matter because I am broadcasting live from Birmingham, Alabama, and a place that has no phone, or no access for phones, so that's okay. We will move on with the rest of the show. I got to go full circle to yesterday. So I did make some people rather angry yesterday. I've gotten a lot of hate mail through yesterday into today about just hating everybody in Washington and, oh, you got to pick, and, oh, my side is perfect. And I'm sorry. I think both sides pivoting to the stupid Jeffrey Epstein stuff is just additional proof of how stupid it all is. And on that point, I got to note that we are dealing with a situation now in the last 24 hours where the Democrats have attempted to drag the president of the United States by tying him to Jeffrey Epstein. And you got to follow the logic here. We followed the logic on tariffs absurdly earlier. Let's follow the logic of the Democrats on Jeffrey Epstein now. So we know that the email that circulated claiming that Donald Trump was seen inappropriately with young women was actually supposedly an email from Giffrey, the young lady who committed suicide last year, who was abused by Prince Andrew. She herself not only was okay with Donald Trump running for president in 2024 and said as much, she also said repeatedly, both under oath and not under oath, that she never saw Donald Trump being untoward. So they sent out an email that claims to be from her. They redacted her name because they didn't want you to be able to know it was from her. And when Republicans revealed it was supposedly from her, the Democrats attacked the Republicans for outing the victim. Never mind that the victim is the one who said this stuff never happened. So then they trotted out an email that suggested Donald Trump hung out with Jeffrey Epstein for Thanksgiving 2027, except there's actually video and pictures of the President of the United States at Mar-a-Lago in 2017 for Thanksgiving. The Democrats had to delete the tweet. So they've now produced multiple emails that don't hold water. So what exactly is going on here? Are they making the emails up and the press is carrying water for them? What exactly is going on? I assume they're making this stuff up. But wait, there's more. They're also now producing emails from Jeffrey Epstein showing that Donald Trump was a terrible human being, that Donald Trump couldn't be trusted, he was a liar, he possibly had dementia, all the things the Democrats have claimed that about Donald Trump, they're now claiming Jeffrey Epstein saw them. In fact, Occupy Democrats put out a tweet. Here is the tweet, and I quote it: Epstein may have been an evil predator, but he was a perceptive judge of character. They're literally doing that. Epstein may have been an evil predator, but he was a perceptive judge of character. So now we have to believe emails supposedly written by Jeffrey Epstein that he hated Donald Trump because Donald Trump was a terrible person. And just 48 hours ago, Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend and was involved in shenanigans with Jeffrey Epstein. You see what they're doing here is they're using the American media, particularly CNN and MSNBC, to carry water for them. CNN has gone wall to wall on this Epstein nonsense, and never mind the shift in the story. So at first it's Epstein and Trump are besties, and now it's Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and you've got Occupy Democrats actually claiming that we should trust Jeffrey Epstein over Donald Trump because Epstein may have been evil, but he was a great judge of character. Hitler may have been evil, but his building projects were awesome. Mussolini may have been evil, but he made the trains run on time. This is where we're left with the Democrats now. They descended into chaos over the shutdown. It looks like Chuck Schumer is not going to run for re-election. And now they're hanging their hat on Jeffrey Epstein, and none of it holds water. And now, what about the victims? Remember, we had a number of Republicans and Democrats say they were going to read the names of the abusers on the floor of the House. They would be protected by the speech and debate clause. Where is this? Remember that happened about 2 months ago. They said they were going to do it. They were going to read the names because the victims had ratted out them behind closed doors, and they were going to read the names, and they've never read the names. Where are they? Here's my point. Because, I don't believe the conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein. There never was a list. If you actually listen to the lawyers of the victims, they said there never was a list. Everybody thinks there's some formal list of names that Epstein kept. They're not. There are victims, and behind those victims, there are the names of the victimizers, and the victims were paid a lot of money to keep their mouths shut. So, what's going on here? We're in that weird, silly season where there's not a lot of news. And the Democrats caved on a government shutdown. They got nothing for it. So they got to work with their friends in the media to distract everyone. And they're going back to Jeffrey Epstein. I played you the clip yesterday of Mark Caputo, who said to some degree it's karma. Now, I don't believe in karma. I believe in God's justice. But Mark Caputo, using the word karma, the Republicans, they set this nonsense up. They tried to use it to attack the Democrats, vilify the Democrats. They made up claims of people on the list who were never on the list. And now it's payback. The GOP did this to itself because it was stupid at politics, and now the Democrats are stupid at politics, and both sides get what they deserve. And meanwhile, the American people, as I said yesterday, they're kind of hungry. Things are overpriced. But we're having to deal with Jeffrey Epstein. What's galling to me here, though, is that during Joe Biden's tenure in office, the Democrats didn't care at all. They didn't care about the victims. The stories that are coming out now are appalling. The treatment of the victims, the near ritualistic sexual abuse of victims, the grooming of young women, many of whom were underage, a lot of it not by wealthy men, but by Jeffrey Epstein himself. A lot of the abuse coming from Epstein himself. A lot of the people in his orbit knew he was a creep, a pervert, possibly a pedophile. And it wasn't that they were abusing these women. They had the suspicions and they did nothing because Epstein helped make them money, among other things. Larry Summers, who was Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary and an advisor to Barack Obama and the Harvard president, comes off looking terrible. Steve Bannon tried to help rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein's image. Michael Wolff, the author, a regular on Brian Stelter's show on CNN like Michael Avenatti. Brian Stelter sure can't pick him, can he? Michael Avenatti, Michael Wolff. He used both to attack Donald Trump. It appears that Michael Wolff coordinated with Jeffrey Epstein to attack the character of Donald Trump. What's appalling here is that these are wealthy people who know that bad things are happening, and they chose to do nothing. It doesn't matter if there are millionaires and billionaires involved. Lots of billionaires' names have come up over the years. Lots of other people's names. Bill Gates' name has been out there. Stephen Hawking's name has been there. You don't know whether they actually have the sordid connections to Jeffrey Epstein. You know that they came into contact with Jeffrey Epstein. It's just the names are out there. And when the names get out there and they're touched by Jeffrey Epstein, they're ruined. But what you see here, what is a clear pattern, whether any of these people were abusive or not to young women, is that a lot of people knew Jeffrey Epstein himself was an abusing deviant, and they chose to do nothing because Jeffrey Epstein was giving them access to the powerful or was managing and making them money. It's a whole nother world. And by the way, in fairness and intellectual honesty, it's a world in which Donald Trump resided for a while. He and Jeffrey Epstein did a number of times connect. He did, in fact, leave the body note for Jeffrey Epstein. There are so many people who wanted to say it wasn't true. It wasn't true. Trump says it's not true. It's true. It's also just one of those things Donald Trump would do. It doesn't mean Donald Trump was an abuser. The president's supporters don't want to think he was tied to Epstein at all. The Democrats want to believe he was in on the abuse. The picture is much more nuanced and, by the way, very exculpatory of Donald Trump. Way more exculpatory of Donald Trump than Bill Clinton. It's just appalling that we're in a situation now where we've got victims who are really being overshadowed to score political points against Donald Trump. Victims being overshadowed so people can actually circulate emails that turn out to be lies. The Democrats literally had to delete a tweet that highlighted an email claiming Donald Trump was with Jeffrey Epstein on Thanksgiving 2017 when we know it wasn't true. And if that email was fake, if all of that was fake, how much of the other stuff is fake? And are we ever going to get the information? You know, this House has to vote on this, but the Senate does too. I assume the votes are there in the Senate. Will it be able to overcome a filibuster? Will it be able to overcome a veto? I would assume so. The president just needs to let this get out there at this point. The president just needs to let it get out there. The more the president digs in and says no, threatens to veto legislation that would authorize the release of all the information, the more the president does that, the more he looks in some way culpable, whether he is or isn't. The president wants to fight everything, and I get it. The president likes to fight any accusation. He likes to go to the mats. He likes to throw the punches. He likes to be the bully back against the people bullying him. I get it. At some point, though, you got to let stuff like this one go. Get it into the public domain. Let people judge it for themselves. Let people determine if there's a there there. It's time to get the information fully out there instead of letting the Democrats trickle stuff out that may or may not be true while they're playing games. But more than that, I would, again, challenge those members of Congress who said they were going to name names. I would challenge those Democrats. Get out there and name the names. Get out there and tell us the truth. Get out there and tell us, under the protection of the speech and debate clause, get out there and tell us who the actual abusers were other than Jeffrey Epstein. Because at this point, they should know the names. And at this point, they should be willing to tell us the names. And at this point, if they're not willing to do what they said they were going to do 2 months ago, they're cheapening the abuse. They're cheapening the abuse and degrading what happened to score political points. And that in and of itself, I personally think, is extremely shameful behavior by the Democrats to do something like that. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. Don't forget, if you text the word donate to 33777, you can help our effort with Hungry for a Day, feeding folks around the country. We're well over $100,000 now, well over 1,000 people participating. Please consider, if you can only give $5, it actually does matter, and it really will go to use. $40 feeds a family of 4 a Thanksgiving meal. Please text donate to 33777. Markwayne Mullin, the senator from Oklahoma, is being thrown under the bus by some Republicans in the White House who suggest he's the guy who put a provision in the government reopening package that would allow senators whose phones were tapped by Jack Smith to sue the government for up to $500,000. We don't actually know that it was Markwayne Mullin, but it's come off badly. Senate Majority Leader, according to Politico, John Thune, thought he was giving Republicans a gift when he secured a provision of the shutdown-ending government funding package that could award hundreds of thousands of dollars to senators subpoenaed as part of Jack Smith's investigation into Donald Trump. It turns out several of them don't want it. Of the 8 known Senate Republicans whose phone records were subpoenaed as part of Smith's probe, Senator Lindsey Graham has announced definitive plans to take advantage, and only one, Lindsey Graham has announced definitive plans to take advantage of the new legislative language. Oh, definitely, Graham said at a news conference. And if you think I'm going to settle this thing for $1 million, no, I want to make it so painful no one ever does it again. The others, however, were less enthusiastic or more opaque. In public comments, social media posts, or statements to Politico over the last few days, the 7 remaining Senate Republicans declined to publicly commit to seeking compensation for being singled out by Jack Smith. I think the Senate provision's a bad idea, says Josh Hawley in a statement. There needs to be accountability for the Biden DOJ's outrageous abuse, but the right way to do it is through public hearings, tough oversight, including of the complicit telecom companies, and prosecution where warranted. Now, this provision would allow Republican senators to sue, and again, several people tried to throw Markwayne Mullin under the bus for it. I don't think he was complicit in doing it. I think these are people who are axe grinding the senator, because the most recent news stories are pointing to Thune himself authorizing the provision, not Markwayne Mullin. I thought it was just very interesting to see Senator Mullin's name come out in this, particularly given the fact that he tends not to be supportive of things like this. So I have a hard time believing he was the one behind it, and looks like there are axe grinders out there to get him. Now, the House almost didn't pass the shutdown resolution to reopen the government because Chip Roy of Texas objected to the provision. The Appropriations Committee chairman and the House Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, all agreed they would draft separate legislation to strip that provision from the legislation if they could go on and reopen the government. Congressman Roy agreed, as did other Republicans and Democrats who were opposed to the provision, and a number of senators have come out now and said they are perfectly happy to delete the provision. We'll see if it actually goes forward. But it's just very interesting. Someone slipped a provision in that would allow the Senate Republicans to cash in on the Biden era, $500,000 apiece. Lindsey Graham, thus far, being the only one who says he wants to use it. Good Lord. Lindsey, come on. Don't do that. Don't cost the taxpayers money for something like that. That's not a good look, particularly after the government's been shut down for more than a month. Now, let me tell you about Vision Computers. Vision Computer can help you build a computer. Vision Computers can help you upgrade your computer. Vision Computers can be your managed IT service. If you need managed IT, they can help you. You go to 404 Compute. That's what you call them, 404 Compute. Or go to visioncomputers.com. Tell them I sent you. You might be able to save some money. If you need a new computer, their customer service comes with it. Their world-class customer service comes with your new computer, where in 15 seconds or less, you can pick up the phone and talk to a live human being, not an AI chatbot, and get real resolution on whatever it is with your computer you don't understand. You got a question, something isn't working right, you need email help, printer support. Vision Computers can help you. And again, you get a special phone number, and in 15 seconds or less, a live human being answers the phone, not a chatbot. They can also do this as managed IT for your whole company. If you can't afford the in-house six-figure salaried IT guy, Vision Computers can be your managed IT support, and each of your employees gets the phone number, and they can call anytime, 24/7, 365, and get a live human being on the phone to help answer their tech support questions. They save you money, they keep you going, they make your employees great at their jobs, not at their computers, and Vision makes your computers great. Call them at 404 Compute or go to visioncomputers.com. Well, I thought I was done with the Epstein stuff, but word has just come out that the president has now ordered Pam Bondi to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's ties to Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and other Democratic politicians. Why are we just continuing to keep this stupid story alive? By the way, you should note, where is this story? I saw it a little while ago, that Katie Couric and others, yes, Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos, Chelsea Handler, Charlie Rose, and Woody Allen went to a dinner party with Jeffrey Epstein in honor of Prince Andrew. Katie Couric says she didn't know anything about him at the time. It was after he was released from prison in 2010. I would love to move on from the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, but no one in Washington seems to want to move on from Jeffrey Epstein. They're all convinced they can destroy each other with using Jeffrey Epstein. And meanwhile, we got high grocery prices and everything else out there. I just don't understand the need to continue to perpetuate it. Bloomberg News. Epstein's library, the disgraced financier, purchased books about making money. Washington Post, Jeffrey Epstein's vast web of powerful friends. The Atlantic, Epstein returns at the worst time for Trump. New York Times, America First, some Trump supporters worry that's no longer the case as Epstein dominates the headlines. Politico, Marjorie Taylor Greene blasts Trump's Epstein focus. The Guardian, Trump turns up the heat on Republicans to block release of Epstein files. NBC News, Epstein survivors urge Congress to release all files. The Guardian, Jeffrey Epstein advised Steve Bannon during 2018 post-Trump media campaign. Associated Press, Epstein emails reveal enduring ties with influential figures even after a sex crime investigation. Really, come on, people. There's so much more at stake in the world today than that. It's frustrating. By the way, breaking news, Israel has seized a tanker in the Straits of Hormuz. That is the straits that get into the Persian Gulf. Iran seized a Marshall Island-flagged oil tanker as it traveled through the narrow Straits of Hormuz on Friday, a U.S. official said, turning the ship into Iranian territorial waters in the first such interdiction in months. Iran did not immediately acknowledge the seizure, though it comes as Tehran has been increasingly warning it can strike back after facing a 12-day war in June with Israel that saw the U.S. strike its nuclear sites. The ship, the Talara, was arriving from Ajman, the United Arab Emirates, onward to Singapore when Iranian forces intercepted it, says the U.S. defense official who spoke on conditions of anonymity. A U.S. Navy MQ-4C Triton drone's been circling above the area where the Talara was for hours on Friday, observing the seizure. A private security firm, Ambry, described the assault as involving 3 small boats approaching the Talara. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center separately acknowledged the incident, saying a possible state activity forced the Talara to turn into Iranian territorial waters. Cyprus-based Columbia Ship Management later said in a statement it had lost contact with the tanker, which was carrying high-sulfur gas oil. The company has notified the relevant authorities and is working closely with all relevant parties. The Navy has blamed Iran for a series of lignite mine attacks on vessels that damaged tankers in 2019, among others. Iran has long threatened to close the Straits of Hormuz, and it appears to be active, and yet Jeffrey Epstein. That's the headline. That's what people want to talk about. That's the absurdity of it all. People just aren't serious these days, I think. Meanwhile, by the way, Fannie Mae official has been ousted. Confident of Bill Pulte, the Trump administration's top housing regulator, provided confidential mortgage pricing data from Fannie Mae to a principal competitor, alarming senior officials of the government-backed lending giant who warned it could expose the company to claims it was colluding with a rival to fix mortgage rates. Emails reviewed by the Associated Press show the Fannie Mae executives were unnerved about what called a very problematic disclosure of data by Lauren Smith, the company's head of marketing, who was acting on Bill Pulte's behalf. Lauren, the information that was provided to Fannie Mae in this email is a problem. Malloy Evans, senior vice president of Fannie's single-family mortgage division, wrote in an email, "It's confidential competitive information." He copied Fannie Mae's CEO, Priscilla Almodovar, on the email, which bore the subject line, "As per Director Pulte's ask." Evans asked Fannie Mae's top attorney to weigh in on that, if any steps we need to take to legally protect ourselves now. While Smith still holds her position, the senior Fannie Mae officials who called her conduct into question were all forced out of jobs last month, along with an internal ethics watchdog that was investigating Pulte and its allies. I'm telling you, Pulte is the gift that keeps on giving to the Democrats. He's the guy who convinced the president to do the 50-year mortgage. He's the guy who handed over confidential information, who's now headed, what's the idiot from California, the congressman, what's his name? I'm sorry. Swalwell, that's it. Fang did the bang with Swalwell, and now he's under investigation for mortgage fraud, thanks to Pulte, who's weaponizing all of this stuff. But he's causing headaches for the Trump administration because there have been a number of unethical things that have happened at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and his fingers appear to be on all of them. So there's this, and again, this is what boggles my mind here. Let's just end the show where we began the show. Donald Trump said only foreigners pay tariffs and they don't raise prices, but he's now cutting tariffs because the tariffs are raising prices on American consumers, on coffee, bananas, tomatoes, a host of things. And the Democrats are talking about Epstein. You got this guy pushing Trump on a 50-year mortgage and causing Fannie Mae to possibly do some unethical stuff. And the people who caught the unethical stuff, they're the ones who got fired, not the people who did the unethical stuff. And the Democrats are talking about Epstein. There's so much out there to focus on. If the Democrats were a mature, grown-up party, they would be focusing on it. But they're not actually focusing on any of that stuff. The president is blessed by having idiots as enemies. I continue to be flabbergasted by the stuff that goes on by people in the Trump administration who should know better. The president's not responsible, but he did put those people in positions. It seems they're taking advantage of the positions for personal gain. And the president does nothing, and the Democrats don't attack. So Kash Patel, as the director of the FBI, is required to fly on the FBI's private jet because he needs access to confidential classified information at times. So if Kash Patel wants to go to a music concert in Austin, Texas, he's got to get on the FBI private jet. He's not allowed to fly commercial, but he has to reimburse the FBI for commercial rates. Well, during the government shutdown, the government instructed all the people in Patel's position who have to fly private, don't take trips anywhere. It'll look bad. And yet he took his girlfriend to a rodeo, and he went to a music concert, and he did this other stuff. And he also apparently tweeted something, according to a DOJ report now from Pam Bondi, and she and Patel don't like each other. But the DOJ has now leaked that a potential terrorist was able to escape the country because Kash Patel put up a tweet talking about a raid in New York City before it was made public by the Department of Justice, and it allowed 2 would-be terrorists to escape the country. The Democrats, they could be talking about that, but they're not. They're talking about Epstein. This is just the dumbest stuff. And look, I'm not doing this. Understand, I'm not doing this to attack the president. I'm just pointing out there are these issues out there that the people who hate the president could be using, and they're also stupid. They're focusing on Epstein instead of that stuff. The price of groceries seems like it could be a really big issue. The fact that the president's walking back the tariffs on groceries could be a really big issue. The fact that he's not walking back the tariffs on groceries from countries whose presidents he doesn't like, and so the prices of those groceries are still high because of personal animosity of the president, it could be an attack. And no. Let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein instead. It's just like, this is the stupidest era of American politics I think I can recall. I'm sure before I was born, there was idiocy in American politics. But this has got to be the dumbest bit of American politics I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. When you have all of these things out there Democrats could attack Republicans on, and instead they're obsessed with Jeffrey Epstein because they, like the Republicans before them, are convinced that Jeffrey Epstein's a silver bullet. And I think that's probably the larger issue here. Both parties these days want silver bullets to take out the other side. The Republicans want silver bullets to destroy the Democrats. The Democrats want silver bullets to destroy the Republicans. They want that one thing. Remember, with Republicans, it was Obamacare. We can get it to the Supreme Court, and it's going to be declared unconstitutional, and that's going to fatally undermine Barack Obama. And they got to the Supreme Court, and John Roberts says, it's a tax, and a tax is constitutional, sabotaging the Republican silver bullet against Obamacare and the Obama regime. And with the Democrats now, we got this silver bullet. We're going to indict Donald Trump. We're going to get him thrown in jail. He's not going to be president. It blows up in their face. And so now their silver bullet is Jeffrey Epstein. Let's go with Jeffrey Epstein. You got all these other things, but those other things are multifaceted, and people don't have the attention span. And so they want this one thing, and this one thing is never going to take out the politician you don't like. It doesn't matter whether it's a Republican politician or a Democratic politician. The silver bullet is a mythology about killing werewolves. It doesn't exist in politics. There's not the one thing. There's the nuanced argument, but people have forgotten how to make the nuanced argument. And so in not making the nuanced argument, they're in search of the silver bullet, and in search of the silver bullet, they keep failing on both sides of the aisle. It's not a Democratic thing or a Republican thing. It's a political thing these days. Everybody just seems bad at politics right now. By the way, before I go to commercial break, I should mention to you that the U.S. is also now saying they're going to cut Swiss tariffs to 15% from 35%. They're going to be lowered after a diplomatic push. And also, Walmart CEO Doug McMillon is going to step down. He's been there for a decade. You know, Walmart the other day came out with their list of grocery prices. They say make Thanksgiving 25% less. It was touted by the Trump administration as being a very big deal, proof that things are cheaper now than they were under Joe Biden. And what Walmart didn't say until the Wall Street Journal and CNBC pointed it out is that Walmart deleted 6 items from the list to be able to bring down prices. Had they left those 6 items in, well, actually, it would be higher this year than last year. This is the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. has reached a deal to reduce the crippling 39% import tariffs on Switzerland to 15%, easing a growing burden on the Alpine country's export-dependent economy and the steepest tariff the Trump administration imposed on a developed nation. We've essentially reached a trade deal with Switzerland, says Jameson Greer, the trade representative for the U.S. They're going to send a lot of their manufacturing to the U.S., pharmaceuticals, gold smelting, railway equipment. The president shocked Switzerland when he imposed the highest tariff the U.S. has given to imports of any developed nation. Behind the hefty tariff were Trump's grievances over a U.S. goods deficit with Switzerland that reached $38.3 billion. Now, interestingly enough, there were no import tariffs. American goods, except agricultural goods, had no imports in Switzerland. Not a single thing sold by the United States in Switzerland, except for agriculture imports, had tariffs. So we had a massive trade deficit with Switzerland. And so then we had these major tariffs imposed. It gives a relief to Starbucks and McDonald's because Starbucks and McDonald's coffee machines are made in Switzerland. So we'll get a reduction there as well. But again, that's a recognition that you're paying higher prices because of the tariffs. Your cost of living has gone up. You're complaining about it. If we got rid of the tariffs altogether, prices would go down, but God forbid we exercise some common sense when it comes to these things because we got to go back to 1950s economics. So let me give one more big push here. It's Friday afternoon, about 2:54-ish Eastern time. It's kind of wild. I'm almost done with work here, and it's not even 2 o'clock. I'm so used to being done at 3. It's the beauty of Central Time. And by the way, thanks to Stanford University for making this work out for me today to be able to do this from here. And my son should be concluding his tour here in the next half hour. Let me do this just one more time, please. There are families who are going to go without Thanksgiving meals this year. They're going to struggle if we don't help. And you are a very generous people, and I thank you for your generosity. We have raised a large amount of money this week, and I pray that we can finish out the week strong. If you would consider texting donate to 33777. Hungry for a Day does not use a penny you're donating for their overhead. I don't get any of it. They don't get any of it. 100% of it goes to the soup kitchens and food banks that are providing the meals for Thanksgiving. And Hungry for a Day has partnered with groups around the country to make sure that people are taken care of where they are. Your $40 that you donate will feed a family of 4 Thanksgiving. They'll get the turkey, the sides, and the dessert, and the rolls. If you can only give $20, you're feeding 2 people. If you can give $10, you're feeding 1 person. If you can give $5 and someone else gives $5, you fed a person for Thanksgiving. If you can give $80, you fed 2 families for Thanksgiving or 1 large family for Thanksgiving. I am asking for your cash. You have time, you have talent, you have treasure. If you can't give, pray that other people can give, because some of you can't give, but you can pray. You can get on your knees, you can pray. You're in your car right now, you can say a little prayer out loud or quiet that people are able to step up and give, that you're not in a position to this year, but please, Lord, open the generous hearts of others. You can pray. If you can give, though, text the word donate to 33777 and give what you can give. And I know it's not much for people this year because people are struggling. And by the way, that's a sign for everybody who's insisting the economy is fine. Charitable donations are down in this country. Tourism is down in this country. High-end purchases are now starting to decline in this country, which says for the first time the wealthy are starting to be impacted. There are problems with the economy. We shouldn't be so tribal that we defend the indefensible, that we defend things that are not so because we think it'll make our side look bad. There are economic problems in the country, and it's playing out with a lot of charitable groups now are seeing a decline in giving. And so a lot of soup kitchens and food banks are seeing a decline in donations. And you may not be able to give, but if you can't give, if you can pray, I'd appreciate it. And if you can give, please give what you can. Please text donate to 33777. I'll send you back the link. The website is Eric Thanksgiving, ERICK, ericthanksgiving.com. You can go there to ericthanksgiving.com, or you can just text the word donate to 33777. I'll send you the link back, and maybe together we can give some respite. And one more thing here. Some of you listening right now are in the position where you're struggling to make ends meet, and you got a lot of pride, and you don't want to ask. And I want you to know that roughly 2,000 people who listen to this program have donated. There are at least 2,000 people listening to this program who want to take care of you. But what you have to do is swallow your pride and be willing to go to the soup kitchen or the food bank to get help. So I want you, if you can give, to text donate to 33777. And if you can't give and you need the help, I want you to go get the help you need, because there are so many of us who want to help you. And we want you to have a Thanksgiving. So please do it. Let me tell you about Old Glory Bank before I get out of here. They're my bank. They could be your bank. OldGloryBank.com/Eric. OldGloryBank.com/Eric. By the way, they're very generous people, too, at Old Glory Bank, and they're one of the fastest growing banks in the country. They're wonderful people. They're great conservatives. OldGloryBank.com/Eric. They are my bank. I have a no-fee checking and no-fee savings account with them, which means I don't get the great interest, but I still get great interest in my savings account, but I don't have an interest-bearing checking account. You could, and if you're a veteran, military, active duty, they'll waive fees for you for the interest-bearing accounts. OldGloryBank.com/Eric is where you need to go, ERICK. They are my bank. They could be your bank. If your kid needs a custodial bank account, they're an online bank, great for kids. You can even deposit cash around the country at 88,000 locations. They do CDs, they do mortgages, they do business accounts, they do business lending, and they're one of the fastest growing banks out there. They're my bank, and they could be your bank, and I think you'll like them. Check them out at oldglorybank.com/Eric. That's oldglorybank.com/ERICK. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. You guys have a fantastic weekend.